Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you're located. My name is Andrea Scheidley. I'm the AVP of DI Sales here with Illinois Mutual, and I'm very excited to have our third, I guess it's been now, Best Practices Forum that we host for our agents. And today's topic is going to be technology to help you grow your DI business. We have two and hopefully three. We're having some login issues for one of our panelists. Great agents with us that have been really good partners. Some Corey for a number of years, and Cynthia is newer within the last year or so, but I've been doing an amazing job in the DI business and have had great success in different ways with technology to help grow their business. So I'm very excited for you to talk or learn from them today. Because what we've learned from agents, so we've done some surveys, is that agents like to learn from other agents. You don't want to listen to me, do a PowerPoint presentation for the next hour. So I think this will be really helpful. If you do have questions throughout the meeting today, feel free to use the questions feature. And we do have our internal sales reps, Carrie, Erica, and Karen on the call with us today. So they'll be able to help answer those questions throughout the meeting. But then I'll also open up for Q&A the last 10 or 15 minutes so we can kind of answer some of those and ask them out loud to everyone. So again, you can learn from each other. With that said, we'll go ahead and get started. So I have Corey Anderson with us today. He's from the Minnesota area. And then Cynthia Scott is from Georgia, right, Cynthia? Yes. Okay. Thank you. And they are going to be helping to we're going to ask them some questions about how they grow their business, and you can learn from them. So Corey, you want to tell us a little bit about your business and background?
Yeah. Quick skinny on me is I work from home. Yes, I'm bald too, by the way. Anyways, no, I work from home, married, 4 wonderful kids. My life is all about my wife and my family, and then we fill in work where we can. It's something where I've been specializing in disability insurance since 2003 with my own practice. Prior to that, I was a brokerage rep calling on advisors, teaching them how to sell disability for a few years, and realized a lot of advisors don't know how to sell disability insurance. So started my own practice, working with advisors where I work with their clients. About 80 to 90% of my business is disability. We also do life, long-term care. We added property casualty late last year. However, our focus is disability, and disability.
Perfect. Thank you. Cynthia, how about a little bit of your background?
Yeah, Cynthia Scott, the great state of Georgia. Been in the industry for 17 years, independent, all 17 years of that. Property and casualty primarily, but I'm shifting and just getting more involved with some of the other products that insurance offers, particularly the disability. Life insurance has always been my favorite in the beginning of those years. My office is open, so I have a storefront, and currently I'm the only one in the office, so that could explain, Corey, while this is behind me. So but hopefully soon, just interviewed a couple people, so hopefully that comes out. But I am a mother of 2 lovely girls, wife for 26 years, and I'm just beginning in insurance. I love it, and I've fallen in love with the disability, Corey. Yeah, I like it. I really do.
Wonderful.
I love it. I have to chime in because I was razzing Cynthia before we started about the paper in the background. I run a remote office where I've got 4 wonderful ladies on my team, and they all work from their house. I work from my house, and I was talking about how if I have paper, I will probably lose it. So we don't trust me with paper.
But from the PNC side, it's definitely a must. So it's, hard to make that transition. So that's great. Thank you both again for joining us. I think you have very unique practices, and I think everyone can learn a lot from you today. So one of the questions I had that we can just kind of jump into here is talking about our e-application platform, and not just Illinois Mutuals, but just e-applications in general. For Illinois Mutual, we've had a very slow start with agents and advisors wanting to start using e-applications and transitioning away from that paper app. They're not quite at your level where they hate paper yet, Corey. So can you tell us a little bit about how e-applications have helped you grow your practice, or how it's simplified your business, or maybe helped you expand the clients that you can meet with because you can do things virtually and don't have to be in person? Corey, do you want to start with that one?
Sure. We're licensed in 40 states, and the states we don't have is just because we haven't gotten referrals in those states. So we pretty much never meet the client, and paper applications, we even had a carrier recently come out with where you only could do e-app. There's no such thing as paper. We've been doing e-apps for, like, when I think of e-app, I think of anything electronic, not actual physical paper. And we've been doing this for more than 10 years and solely doing it that way. We try to avoid paper like it's a black plague. However, I think when we do e-app, some people think you just take an application on a person once you talk to them about income protection. And to me, that's where I think our industry completely failed, is they think, oh, well, there's the telephone interview, so I don't have to ask those questions. There's the e-application, so I barely have to do anything there. And I just basically meet somebody who's got a pulse and I write an application on them, which is not the case. You have to still do field underwriting, which I think we'll talk about field underwriting later. But I think a huge part of the process to make it simple is to still make sure you're doing the field underwriting. Back when I was brought into the industry, most of us were called field underwriters. So that's kind of dating myself here, but it's a term that's, I think, a lost art. And the more you can get better at the underwriting side of it, the easier your practice will become.
100% agree with that. How about you, Cynthia? How has, using e-apps, and maybe a little bit different from the P&C side, but on that disability side, how's the e-apps helping you grow and expand into life in the DI?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I absolutely love the e-app. And on the property casualty side, some of these companies are catching up. I mean, so they're actually, you're Progressive and a lot of them, they're going to e-app. So, so that's even funny with me when I have a claims rep to call and they want the application. And I said, they did that electronically. So I don't have the application. So you have to look to Progressive for that. So, but on this side, I love it. It fell right into, I was familiar with it. So yeah, I think it locks in, greater potential to kind of lock that person in, e-apps, so we're not waiting for them to come to my office or me visit their home. So it makes it easier. It makes it easier, much easier. So I love it.
Good. I think so too. And something with Corey mentioning he does business in 40 states. He's actually my advisor and my husband's advisor. And with Cynthia, with you saying this, as far as it helps to lock the clients in, my husband's a heavy equipment operator. He hates technology, doesn't do anything very well with e-applications or e-signatures. And he also would not want to sit in person and take a paper app and have to sign 15 pages, so to get him to actually take an application and to do it electronically, I think that says a lot for how e-app helps us grow our business and reach a different clientele too, and all different ages. It doesn't have to be, just younger generation that's willing to do it, because he's 35 and hates doing that, but he did it. So I think that just, if anything, then maybe that's a good example of how it does help you expand and grow your business there.
And if I can add one thing to that, one of my areas of niche is the truck drivers.
Yes.
So even with them, what I find more hard is catching them, but the signing of the application, because they're all using their phone, they're getting their loads of their phones. So you think that group of people, young or older, but so
it's helpful.
Yeah, so it helps.
Good. I was thinking of them too. Sorry, Corey, go ahead.
I think of, I don't want to advocate for distracted driving, but at the same time, a lot of clients are more than willing to talk on the phone while they're driving. And so I think of like Andrea and her husband, Andy. Andy has a commute. He doesn't just walk outside and start working. So those are the type of people that have a commute, and what a great way to use their commute, if they're up for it, to do your appointments with them, where you can ask all the questions and do a whole appointment where if you would have met face-to-face with them, they would have maybe never met with you. And I don't know, most people who live in the Midwest won't meet with anybody in the summer because that's only 3 nice months out of the year.
Right.
So what a great time to, use their commute time. When do you drive to work? If you drive to work, when do you drive and what time? Okay, why don't we do a phone appointment while you're in the car?
Absolutely. I just drove 4 hours to Iowa yesterday in the morning and then back in the afternoon. I had a long call in the morning for about an hour, and it helped the drive go by so quick. So I can definitely relate to that. And that's, I think, a good tip just for finding ways to, make your day work for your schedule. Corey, like you said, you work around your kids and your family and everything, right? So if there's a time that you're going to be driving or you have an hour in the morning that can meet, you can fit that in with your clients, use it. It doesn't have to be just 8 to 5 anymore. We have so much more flexibility with virtual selling to be able to take those appointments over the phone and applications also. Corey, you kind of touched on this a little bit as far as how to make the e-app and the underwriting process a simpler process for you and for your clients. A lot of that, comes down to field underwriting. Do either of you have any other tips that you've found with using e-application systems that have helped make it more simplified? From what I hear from agents all the time is by using e-app, they have to submit a complete application. So they can't miss that one simple question that's very easy to overlook on a paper app. You have to complete that on an e-app. And so it makes the underwriting experience better for you and for your clients, because that's one less thing that you have to go back to them for, or one less thing the underwriter has to come to you for. So any other tips like that or other feedback on e-applications that, you feel like helps with your success?
So a few things. One is, I think begin with the end in mind. And so if you're meeting with a client, do you want to deliver a policy, or do you want to deliver a decline, or do you want to deliver a rating or an exclusion or whatever it may be? And how do you want that to look when you come back to them after underwriting? And do you want it to be smooth, or do you want it to be bumpy? And so I look at, in the industry, we only place 60% of the applications submitted as an industry. To me, that's an absolute embarrassment to our industry. I think it should be about 95% or higher, at least 90%. I worked in a large firm years ago, and their goal was 80% placement, which was quite a bit up from the industry average. However, I think if we do the field underwriting, we can be well into the 90s. And what I mean by field underwriting is when you meet with a client or you chat with a client, maybe you're dealing with that trucker and they're over the phone, and it's while they're taking a load from South Carolina to California, is asking them the pertinent questions. And so it's something where you can get it from Andrea or follow up with me or whatever, but we have a whole list of questions we go through, and we have it where we'll email it to them if they want to see it in advance. However, I require the client to talk to me about these questions over the phone, because I want to hear their pauses or something. It's something where if you ask a certain question, it's pretty pointed, you have to wait for the answer and let that uncomfortable silence pass and don't interject. So there's like drug use or certain questions that sometimes you have to just wait with that pregnant pause, like, okay, now they're going to come in and say something. So I think you got to be careful on that and asking a lot of questions up front. Like, for example, two of the biggest things in Minnesota were the land of, they call it the land of 10,000 lakes. I like to call it the land of 10,000 chiropractors. And there's a chiropractor on every street corner. That can really impact your underwriting. So we get a lot of spine exclusions and back exclusions. So we should know that before we submit an app. The other one is mental nervous conditions, stress, depression, anxiety, drug addiction, alcohol addiction. Probably half of the clients we deal with are already on a antidepressant or anti-anxiety med or ADHD medicine. That's okay. But we should know that up front and how that's going to impact underwriting versus after we submit an application. So if we ask those questions and we know that up front, before you ever quote a case, you can tell the client when you quote them, this is what's going to happen. You're only going to get a 5-year benefit because of this. You're going to have a rating because of this. So I think the more you ask that up front, it will make your e-app process smooth, because then you do the e-app and you already know what you believe the results are going to be of that application. And then it just helps the whole process. Letting clients know what to expect up front versus surprises. I always say to clients, surprises are fantastic when it's your birthday or Christmas. Insurance surprises are never fun.
Absolutely. Cynthia, any other tips on your side that's really helped, especially with the truck drivers or doing business over the phone, to simplify that on taking the application and through the underwriting side of it?
No, I think you and Corey touched on some of the same things that I thought about, and that first thing was fewer errors or less or none, But you have to submit it, and you get a message if it's not correct. So yeah, but no, I think that's it. Some of the same things that I follow.
I'm going to interject 2 underwriting tips while we're at it. If the client goes to the chiropractor every 2 weeks, even if it's for routine adjustments, just so you know, you're going to get a spine exclusion, and it's not Illinois Mutual, it's everybody. And then 2 is if your client's on Wellbutrin, Prozac, Zoloft, some antidepressant, you're going to get an exclusion for mental nervous everywhere. So know that up front, like be prepared for that and talk about that up front versus again on the back end. So
that's great. And Cynthia, I think we had talked about this before the meeting, just once you started using the e-apps for your first piece of business, it's simple. It just becomes common nature. And then so you're going to submit every piece of business or 99% of your business via e-apps moving forward. So that's one piece of advice I think we hear a lot is that once you use the e-app, you'll get comfortable and then you can use it moving forward. And it's normal, right? Just like paper apps are normal for some people right now, it becomes normal moving forward. So those of you, if you haven't used it yet, I would encourage you to start trying that because I think it can really just help simplify and reduce the paper that you have to have, right? So with that, I want to kind of transition because I don't want this to be all focused on e-app, but just to talk more about social media and technology too, how that's helped grow your business. And it's actually a good segue because one of the questions that one of our attendees had asked is, what percent for both of you, what percent of your business do you use via using Zoom versus over the phone? And do you think Zoom helps with a sale as far as being able to see that person or them being able to see you? Do you feel like that helps with your sale overall? Or does it just, once you get them interested, you can have that phone conversation and you're good to go? So thoughts on that?
Let's go TikTok star. I want to hear this.
Well, I mean, I believe on any social media platform, you're gonna have some concerns from them, and sometimes I have concerns with them as well. But but what I first believe is that social media that's the way, right? I mean, that's the beginning of, I think, these are not anyone else's numbers, but I think 90% of conversations starts on social media, okay? I mean, that's just me. So start the conversation. So I believe that Zoom, I have people that ask for Zoom or I offer Zoom, okay? And over the phone and just do electronically, I would say, and to consider, I still have walk-ins. So, but that percentage is still higher than the traffic, providing those are just coming in to make payments. I'm still trying to get them to go electronic on that, a lot of them. But so I would say maybe 80-20 for me.
80-20.
Yeah. So and I like it, and I think this is where I guess maybe I'm a little old timey with the paper because not all my carriers has as they're changing, I'm changing. So yeah, but it's definitely 80. I would say 80-20 for me on the electronic or Zoom way versus in person. And I prefer that, to be honest with you. And I try to make it easier for them, the process at the same time. So
wonderful. Thanks, Corey.
For myself, if we go back to the beginning, it's all about my wife and my 4 kids and our life. And my most productive day over the last few years was driving down Interstate 35 from Minneapolis to Dallas, Texas. And we let clients know that it was going to be December 23rd. We were getting stuff in. They wanted to do stuff before the Christmas holiday. And my staff told them, hey, look, he'll be in the car. His wife will be driving, but hopefully his kids will be quiet. And every once in a while, you'd have to hit mute and tell them to be quiet. But point being is we did business while driving 80 some miles an hour down the interstate. And I've wanted to set my business up like that since day one, because I don't want to be the dad that misses all of their sports games. Every Friday, I volunteer in my kids' classroom for 2 hours in kindergarten. I love to volunteer and I love to be that involved dad. So how I've set it up and our team is, this is a face that was made for radio and this voice was made for newspaper. And that's the way I look at it. And so I kind of laugh about it and I say, you know what? We do phone, or phone. We will have them interact with their email. So when we do our first phone call, we do that all via phone. If they have to do Zoom and they really want to do Zoom, we'll do it. But it's less than a couple of, like 3 clients a year. And it's maybe because an advisor forced it. Keep in mind, our business comes from advisors. Most of our business comes from financial planners, life insurance agents, property casualty agents, different advisors around the country that don't want to do disability insurance. So they call us and they have us do it for them with their clients. So it's a little bit different in our practice, but we're coming in on their coattails and we're using their relationship. So we don't have to build the relationship as much. And we're looked at as the product expert or this niche, and we're handling this niche. So we do phone. I try to schedule in the afternoon, for example. We have a boat in the summer. I like to be out of the office at 3 o'clock every day. Today, I got to get somewhere and we got to leave at 2. So I have a 2 o'clock and a 2:30 phone appointment, and my wife will be driving the car. And we do that regularly. And so I do my hours in the summer till 3 p.m. and then I'll do 9 p.m. to midnight after I get off the boat. And that's kind of how I structure it. And 2 days a week, I'll do 9 to midnight. It sounds weird, but we have numerous clients that schedule late nights because we're in more than 4 time zones across the world. So I look at it as we don't do Zoom. Literally 99% of our business is via phone. That first call, they don't need computers. The second call, we want them to have access to their email. They're going to pull up an email with a secure link, and we go through old school spreadsheet if they want to get into it and learn about it. If they just want a recommendation, we'll tell them what we recommend and make sure that their advisor agrees with that. So hopefully that answers it. We avoid Zoom like the Black Plague, because then you got to put a dress shirt on too. I prefer to wear a sweatsuit or a t-shirt and swim trunks. So that's just me.
Don't forget the visor.
Yeah, I always have a visor on. That's obviously to my head. So anyways.
Yeah, I'm hearing from both of you. I think that the beauty of this is whether you feel like you're still old school in business or you're, up on technology and feel like you've got that done in your business, you can build it to be what you want it to be. It can still be full paper. You can use Zoom if it works for you and your clients. You can do it all over the phone. It's just kind of finding that new rhythm, I guess, that works for you to incorporate some technology into the business just to help you simplify and streamline it. So I want to talk more about social media and how you guys have used social media to either find your clients. And Corey, I know a lot of yours comes from centers of influence with other agents and advisors that you work with, but you're very big on social media as well. And Cynthia, yours is a lot of your success that we know about, at least from the DI side lately, has been with social media. It's been targeting truck drivers. So do you want to talk, Cynthia, a little bit about how you've used, what made you decide to do TikTok, and do you use other social media platforms, how you decided on truck drivers, and just any other success stories you've had with that?
Okay, yeah. Well, I use TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. So all of them I use. How I got to truck drivers is I work with a lot of truck drivers on the commercial side of business. So I, interact with them to find out what is missing out of their portfolio. And I said, well, if these in my book of business are missing this, so are the others. And that's true. So I just decided to just talk directly to them, even though I get messages saying, really, because, people say anything on social media. So they, so they're like, why are you just talking to truck drivers? Anyone should be able to get this. And I tell it, and I've gotten those type of messages. And I'm like, you're right. So what industry are you in? So you can, maybe you can have it as well. But I do, because my purpose behind it is to help fill in where I know that their portfolio, there's a lot of things that truck drivers are missing. You know, it's just a lot. But particularly in their financial portfolio, they don't have life insurance in place, a lot of them, and they do not have definitely don't have any disability. And when I'm speaking to them, or I've only gone live on TikTok once, okay, and I have over 5,000 followers, but I've only gone live, and that was like a week or so ago. So I'll do more of that, but all of them are just when I first talk on social media, I say truck drivers, and people are sharing it, you know, so they're going to share it. So I don't look at just the truck drivers. I look at who knows the truck drivers. So I also follow my diesel mechanics when I go on social media, you know. So even people who specialize in taxes for truck drivers only, you know. So it's just, you know, the niche just gets deeper when you're trying to connect with those people. But yeah, so I'm just talking directly to them, giving them some points, you know, interacting with them, you know, commenting as well. So you just have to play with them, you know, even if it's a picture of a child, you all know, you know, it's like cute, you know. So, and they message you back because they really talk to you like they're your friends. And and it's crazy how I reached out to a logistic woman. She does logistics and she's into dispatching for truck drivers. She and I met her on TikTok, and she and I talk at least twice on the phone.
Wow.
So then she, you know, introduced me to another one. So now it's like 3 of us in the group. So we're kind of forming our own group, you know, outside of that. So it just, again, it just gets deeper and deeper, but social media is the way. That's the beginning of the conversation. I mean, I spoke to a truck driver who called me yesterday, and he's waiting on me when I get off this live to do his application. So we're definitely working, yeah.
I think that's great. And just the biggest thing is just showing the need, you know, or promoting what you have available, and then and making those connections. Like something as simple as, I talk about this all the time, but we have our mug worksheet that we've had for 12 years. And it talks about getting DI to cover your mortgage, utilities, and groceries. If you could talk, your center of influence, or if you could make a connection with a real estate agent, hey, who did you sell a house to last month? That'd be a perfect person to reach out to try to get them disability.
Right.
Excuse me. Corey, what did you want to use for social media or promote?
So a couple things on social media. I have a separate business Facebook page. I do more on the personal side, but anyways, I do some LinkedIn stuff. Rarely on Twitter. TikTok, that scares me from the standpoint of I've accidentally started watching some of those videos, and the next thing you know, an hour's passed by and you haven't done any work. So do we need to embrace it? Yes, but I'll kind of comment how I've grown my business. A different route was doing speaking engagements around the country on disability insurance, teaching CE classes. So I'll go teach different CE classes, or how to run a practice that is fully remote or whatever it may be. So I try to build it that way. For example, I'm working next week speaking at an engagement where this advisor is writing a couple $1 million of premium a year in the permanent space, and he's not even 25 years old. He's got a couple of CEOs coming from a couple of large life insurance companies to his event, and he said, hey, will you speak? There's going to be 50 people that are more social media driven advisors, and they're more into the permanent insurance space. Sure, absolutely. I'll talk about income protection and the need for that in a financial plan. So I've developed centers of influence kind of a different way, and our clientele a different way. It's rare that we get direct business. I got to be careful. I don't typically like to be considered competition for my own advisors. However, we do direct business, but most of our business is through the financial planner or insurance agent, property casualty, you name it, something like that. In fact, we write probably 10 to 20 people in our industry every year that could write it on themselves, that they're actually licensed. Right now we've got 4 different advisors we're working on that are in the pipeline that literally could write their own policies, but they realize our niche, and so we get involved and handle it for them.
Wonderful. Thank you. Cynthia, I'm gonna have to follow you on social media because I follow Corey and see what, what he's promoting and posting there. So I'll start following you there too. And I think the biggest thing, another, thought is to follow other advisors and other agents, especially in your area or not in your area, because you can learn from them too. I think especially with disability income, the opportunities are endless for the clientele that's out there that need coverage that don't have it now. So we're not competing against each other when it comes there. The competition is just.
If you follow, yesterday there was a hilarious one about Johnny Depp, Amber Heard.
Okay.
If you go look at, there was a bunch of advisors I know took it, and basically it was, what did Johnny say to, or Amber say to Johnny after the trial? And it was a little back and forth, and it was absolutely intrigued you. You're like, oh my gosh, they were talking. And the last thing was, call whatever this advisor. Point being is it got everybody's attention. I loved it. Like right away I was roped in. So anyways.
Yeah, you can be as basic with it, or, and the more you do it, I feel like you'll learn different things from others, that will help you grow your business. So, I hope that's helped, some of you that maybe aren't on social media now. Is there anything that you would say as far as tips that you have for if you're not currently on social media, but knowing and wanting that you need to transition to your business, how to get started? What you did maybe at the beginning. I know a lot of it is just getting the account set up, right? Start letting your clients know that you are on social media so they can start following you, being active, following other agents and advisors in the area. But any other tips that you guys have for something that you think helped you get started or take off?
If you go ahead, Cynthia.
Yeah. Well, what I would say is this. For me, it was just being nervous. Okay. So if we would just first get over that and realize people are going to be people, you were concerned about what people are going to say or this, that, just all kind of stuff goes through your mind. But one thing that my coach tells me is hit the button, Cynthia. That's it. Hit the button. Because she tells me, she said, because when you start, she said, it's something about when you start teaching, it's just, you just flows with it, so she tells me all the time. So, I waited till I got 1,000 on TikTok. That's when you could go live. And I was at 5,000 before I went live, and I was waiting, but it was still some discomfort or fear of doing it. So even when you go from 0 to 100, you're anxious, but when you get there, it's still something inside of you. But I still have to tell myself, just push the button. And that's what you have to do. Because again, the people are there. And Andrea mentioned about the competition. There's so many people out there. And it's crazy that I'm in a trucker site. I live in Georgia, and I live near Savannah, Georgia. So everybody knows where that is. Nearly, right? So Savannah is 60 miles from me. I'm in this trucker site. I know half of the truckers in there probably know me, right? Because, we all live. But they hardly respond when I put post out. But I'm also in one in North Carolina, and one in South Carolina, and one in Jacksonville, and just on social media, period. And these people call you. So what I would say is we have to get out of our box, get out of the home state, because those that really don't know you, there's going to be the number ones that give you a call. So just, forget about that. Hit the button, hit the button. That's it. And just start talking about what you know. And if you make a blooper, make, I made a blooper and made a TikTok out of it. And so it's like, yeah. So it's just fun. But you do what you do best, and people will, they'll follow you because they want more information. So,
Corey?
I'd agree. Hit send and push the button, and also share your personality too. I mean, Cynthia's not going to be somebody she's not, and be who you are. and you'll attract certain types of clientele. Sometimes you might not attract other types of clientele. Who cares? That's it's a blue ocean out there. There's plenty of business out there. It's just getting out and sharing the message. The other thing too is figure out what you want to do. Like, is it, I want to have a bunch of Google reviews. Go get Google reviews from your clients. Maybe do an incentive if they respond and give you a Google review. Or do you want to grow TikTok? Figure out a way to grow that and your followers. Or pick something. Don't try and pick 45 at once. Pick one that you want to work on and focus on it. And if you're not scared, you're probably not in a big enough pond. Get out there and expand your horizons. And it's something where do it scared. I mean, the amount of things that we each do every day that we're scared of, or that client that you're like, oh my gosh, is this too big of a client for me? It's like, go after it.
I think too, just have fun with it. That's something that from both of you, either just hearing today or knowing, I think you just try to have fun with it. So
be as personable as you can. So even when you all follow me, you'll see me. I'll do a dance every now and then, So, just you have to. You can't just be suit and tie every day. I mean, all day, but still keeping that professionalism that I and the rest of you have. So, and you can do that and do it in a good manner, I believe.
Absolutely. Yeah. One question we always get is kind of just objections, how to face objections. Do you feel like, which I feel like you've already answered this question kind of, because Cynthia, you said, sometimes doing the e-app, it kind of helps you get them to commit versus a paper app and coming back to it later and things like that. But do you feel like you receive any objections over the phone, like, well, I don't know if I need it or not quite sold on it yet, that it's harder to overcome over the phone? Or do you feel like because of the way that you're working with your clients and, the steps that you have with them, you don't really face those objections that you might just bringing it up, in a conversation? Hopefully that's making sense. But I know sometimes we hear a lot, like people don't think they need DI, or, I get all these objections about them purchasing DI. So either overcoming that, and has that helped you or hurt you more in person or virtual?
Well, I think that, I always remember this. If I've done and I've shared and I've given all the tools to the individual, and I'm a transparent person when it comes to the products that I do offer, I'm okay with it. I'm okay. And that's simply because I just feel like, okay, well, maybe they're not ready. I just chop it up as that because I've given, you've called, I know you need this, but you're not comfortable for whatever reason, or you're not ready to secure your future. And so, I just keep it open. I'm not a aggressive agent by far. I'm not. So, but I still make them comfortable and just ask, hey, so when would be the best time? So keep the door open and follow through with that, and we'll see what happens the next time.
I think you got to be pleasantly persistent and then know when to play hard to get. It's one of those things as clients, it's on their timeline and they may think they're ready to move forward. You get all the way to the application process, you've quoted it, you pre-screened it, you did everything, you're about to take the application, and they ghost you. That happens. That doesn't mean they're a no forever. Maybe that's something where you try one or two more times, pleasantly persistent, and then after that you go, you know what, I'm going to put this out 3 months or 2 weeks or a month or whatever it may be. We have a client right now, we're working on a financial planner who sends us a bunch of business, and they wanted to do disability for them and their business partner, and they dragged their feet starting a year ago. Well, all of a sudden they call me and they say, you know what, we're buying our practice next week. I'm buying out the other partner. I need to get this and this and this. Well, okay, now is the right time for them. So you don't want to burn that bridge and tell them to go fly a kite. Thanks for wasting my time on all the stuff I did for you. No, as you know what, if you keep enough things in the hopper, you'll always have some yeses coming in the hopper. If you only have 3 appointments a week, it's not going to work for you. I mean, our goal, we try and set our calendar where we have 20 appointments a week. That isn't 20 client appointments. It's probably more like 15 to 18 client appointments, but that's our goal every week. And we bonus our staff based on, or my team, they get bonuses based on that. So to keep enough in the hopper, sometimes people go cold, and that doesn't mean it's cold forever. It's just cold right now and it might warm up again.
I love that. So many newer advisors that we work with, I feel like once they get the first or second no, it's like DI is too difficult, right? I'm not going to try to sell this, or I'm not going to add this to my portfolio. Well, that same could be said for any other product that you're selling, but if you're just the persistent with them, keep bringing it up, and just the more clients you ask about it, you're going to get more yeses, right? If you only ask one client and they say no, you didn't get very far. So I love hearing that from both of you, that you just have to be persistent with it, and in time it will work out. So Corey, I mean, I'm sure I was the worst client because I took forever to get to pull the trigger for my
second worst. I'll tell you who the worst was. You might know him, but no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You're married. I'm just kidding.
Exactly. Yeah, he was terrible.
You know what's funny though is you bring up that I write a ton of people in our industry just by asking them. Last time I checked, a lot of people who are sales reps in our industry, they aren't making 30 grand a year. They're good clients to have. And like Cynthia, how many times people come in and talk to you about Progressive and it's the wholesaler for Progressive or whatever it may be. That might be a great opportunity to ask them, well, who takes care of you? Who's your advisor? Mm-hmm. I think we let people come into our life all the time that we never even ask. And it's, I mean, we just had a sales rep that's been calling us for 2 years. And I always said, did you ever fix this? I knew there was one problem with their policy. I just kept asking, did you ever fix it? Did you ever fix it? Finally, they said, you're going to fix it for me, aren't you? Let's do an agent of record change. And they did an agent of record change and became my client. And did we get paid anything? No. But now they're a client that will probably be a client for the next 30 years. So be pleasantly persistent, but, be pleasant about it.
Yes. And think about even like your mechanic or someone that's coming to do a contractor who's doing an update on your house, or your hairdresser. There's great ways to find clients every day to ask about DI, then getting referrals from them. And from a social media perspective, I know I kind of got off track there a little bit, but follow them on social media. Who's following them? Who's speaking to them? So there's great ways to build your following, and it doesn't have to be so difficult, I guess. But so we're about, we got about 15 minutes left here. So I do want to go ahead and open it up for Q&A. But before I do that, anything that you guys wanted to touch base on, or any other advice you have for the attendees today for what's helped you, or why you would recommend virtual selling or using social media for your business? Or just anything else you want to add?
I will. You get to enjoy the life you wanted to have. I kind of something on the technology. So I think it's hilarious when I was asked to do something on technology, because I was at Caribou this morning having coffee with one of my teammates that lives close by that I meet with regularly. She handles anything that is my problems, like an executive assistant. And I just said, when I hit reply on my emails, it doesn't show up with my phone number and stuff. Will you fix this? I could probably figure out how to do it, but I don't know how to do it. I don't want to learn how to do it. I also don't want to learn how to fix my computer. That's why I pay a technology company to handle all of that kind of stuff. And point with technology is, I have 4 wonderful ladies on my team. They all have access to my email and my voicemail. I'm a control freak. That was really hard to let go of, but they jump in and they respond to my emails regularly for me. If I had to do it, I would drop the ball daily. So technology, use it to your advantage so we can see everybody's email. I'll jump in late at night. I'm sitting down and I'm like, I'm going to review what so-and-so sent to clients that day. And I'll provide instant feedback that day of what they did for emails and saying, hey, here's some positives, here's some negatives. Maybe here's how to word this a little better to the client. The other thing with technology is Calendly, or whatever scheduling software you want to use. The amount of back and forth scheduling, hopefully none of you are doing that anymore. That is absolute torture. I mean, it feels like somebody's waterboarding me when they want to deal with trying to schedule an appointment and they won't use my scheduling app. We have a scheduling app. You can even, if you want to see how we do it, disabilitygeek.com, top right corner, click on schedule an appointment. We offer appointments right on there. And so that's how we do it, whether it's a first appointment, second appointment, third appointment, or a review appointment. We're always willing to share. And I'll share one other thing. If some people are like struggling on how to run remote appointments or do something like that, we always offer anybody in the industry, if you ever want to listen in on client appointments, We get permission from the referring advisor and from the client beforehand, which we've never been told no. But if you want to hear how we do it start to finish and learn from us, feel free to jump in. We'll invite you on one of our client calls, and you can join the first, the second, and if we need a third appointment, you can join on all those calls. I'm more than happy to share anything with other people in the industry if it's going to help them. So always happy to share and empower your team. Seriously, empower your team. It'll change your business.
That's great. And that's actually a good point. I would suggest for anyone on the call today, definitely reach to follow Corey and Cynthia on social media, because if you're hesitant to get started or not quite sure how to get started, again, you can learn from them, and what they're doing to help you just push the button, right? So Cynthia, how about you? Anything you wanted to?
No, I'll just say that it's very crucial that you do get involved in some type of virtual. It's different, but that's the way that the world is going. So we're going to have to keep up somewhat with what they're doing so that we won't be left behind. So it's very important. It's just change. That's what it is, and we have to take part of it, or you'll be left behind. And I would like to add that for the past 6 months, I no longer have her, but I'm reaching back out to hire her. I have had a virtual assistant. So that just lets you know a lot of things are just virtual, even if they're just answering your calls. So there's so many facets of virtual that will help you in your business. So
that's great. Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead this now and open it up for the Q&A. Let's see, some people, I know.
Andrew, thank you to you, and thank you to Illinois Mutual for putting this together. We appreciate it. And thanks for inviting us on. I think it's awesome that Illinois Mutual is doing something for the industry, and it's neat. So thank you. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you both for participating today. You helped make the session, because I personally wouldn't have much to talk about with it. So I hope it's been helpful for everyone that's been on the call. And I always enjoy learning and speaking with you guys, just to kind of, see what we can do to keep growing the industry and helping our agents sell more disability business, right? That's the focus, or the most important part is how do we all sell more disability business? So one of the questions from Kim Johnson was, how are you acquiring new clients? So I know we've touched a little bit on this, but anything else you'd want to add on that? I think the biggest thing is, centers of influence, getting referrals from other advisors, from your clients that you're currently working with, but any others that you'd like to add there as far as how you're acquiring new clients?
Being strategic within what kind of clientele do you want to bring on. So I get a lot of calls of, hey, can you get me some quotes? And I want to go sell something to my client, or I want to go offer disability. And we made a conscious effort starting at least 5 years ago that we will never provide a quote to another advisor again. And we won't operate as a brokerage anymore. That we want to do it because, frankly, no offense to most advisors, they're terrible at it. And so we just found that it was the same amount of work if they tried selling it versus us. And then they wanted to get paid the agent commission. And we figured, we'll do it for you and we'll make you look better. So go towards the type of business you want. And so if you want to be around only writing accountants, go hang out at the CPA Association meetings. If you want to deal with HR people, go to that. If you want to deal with the truck drivers, get into their different social media platforms and their different, different things, maybe their association, things like that, sponsor their association, go to their golf tournaments, whatever. So we're somewhat strategic on that and supporting, we try to support advisor groups and bring our business in through advisor groups and grow it that way. So we prefer not to get our business direct, as much as that sounds weird. We really prefer to get it from another advisor that can tell the client to write the check because they already know about their financial plan.
Perfect.
The other thing too, I'll bring back one of our old colleagues, good old Todd Forney.
Yes.
Always, if you don't ASK you don't GET. And if
Exactly.
you don't ask, you don't get it. And if you stop asking, you're going to stop getting. But you know, it's amazing when you ask the world for something, how the universe just kind of conspires to help you. Start asking, you know, dream big and start asking for big stuff. And what's the worst that happened? It doesn't happen. So you spent a minute asking once in a while. Just start asking.
For sure. That can be in person or social media. Post one, share something about disability income. Do you have disability income? Call me today if not. Something as simple as that, you might get some traction there. Maybe it's not today, but it's in 4 weeks, that one share or post helped get them interested.
And I'll say one thing,
Yes.
consistency is the key. I don't care what it is, you have to stay consistent. So
that's a great point. Yes. William Brockman, who's one of our attendees today, he mentioned that he does a great deal of his business over the phone and uses a phone service that has helped do the business. It's called Ooma Pro, OOMA Pro. He said it'll help your practice and save you money. So thanks so much for that tip, William. Hopefully everyone can find some value there. And then we've had a couple of the attendees that have mentioned they'd love to speak with each one of you to learn more and just talk more about everything. Would you be okay if we share your contact information with those on the call today? Yep, I figured you would, but I just wanted to double check. Okay, let's see here. And then a few William, this is another good one. So he calls on kiosk owners in the mall. So thinking about your local mall, the kiosk owners is who he's calling on for potential clients. That's a really good idea. And even if you're working with small business owners, think about your Chamber of Commerce or business networking groups. Get involved there to look at the small businesses that you can work with, their employees that you can get referred to. Could give you some more options there. But a few people have asked, Corey, go ahead. Did you want to
go look at anybody in the trades? Holy smokes. Look at what they're making now.
Absolutely.
Gosh, electricians, holy shnikes. Anyways,
That's
the
sure.
other thing too on the social media is be consistent. I couldn't agree more. I got a call from a high school buddy that I haven't talked to in years that he follows me, and I just kept posting things. He goes, I need some disability insurance. I'm like, why now, 20 years later? And there was a backstory, and he was going through a divorce and run a very successful construction business. But point being is, it's just because I was out there regularly commenting or talking about what we're doing for the industry, stuff like that. So consistency.
You don't know what someone's going to see or experience. So a few people, Corey, had asked if you could go over again your upfront questions you asked and kind of the field underwriting tips. Do you mind? I know a lot of it's basically the medical questionnaire or Part B questionnaire from an application, but additional questions. I know you're big on if there's mental nervous history and the medications and back. Any other, would you want to?
Is there any other, I would say, is there any other questions before we do that? And if you don't mind, we can go over. If I have no problem, if you want to stay, I'll go through the questions. And anybody, is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't.
Any other questions though first, so that because that one will be a little bit longer of an answer.
Yeah. As of right now, that's the last question that we've answered all the other questions. So first off, I want to thank everyone for participating today. Thanks for attending and thank you for your questions. Most importantly, thank you to Cynthia and Corey for your advice today on the call and just helping us all learn from each other. If you would like to stay on to hear more about the field underwriting tips and the questions that Corey uses, and Cynthia, any that you have that you use too, we will go over that now. But if not, we can. We appreciate you taking the time to attend today.
Okay, perfect. I'll jump in. So, do you want them to get it from you, Andrea, or do you want them to just email us direct?
Either one, honestly, is perfectly fine. So
okay. You can email Lisa@disabilitygeek.com, Lisa@disabilitygeek.com, and just say underwriting questions. They're not in some fancy format, but I'll go through them pretty quickly. Height, weight. When I do height and weight, have you had a change of more than 10 pounds in the last year? Yes or no? Okay. And then yes, or if yes, how much did you weigh 12 months ago? Because we add back half of that weight. So I need to know that. The second thing is, would you bet your right arm you're under this weight? So when they tell me they're 210, Would you bet your right arm you're under 215? And then you got to be quiet and listen for the answer. Because sometimes people haven't weighed themselves in years and they can be way off. So you really want to make sure you get the height, weight. Nicotine use, what's your preferred nicotine use? And making sure in the last 12 months, have you vaped? Do you do this? Do you do that? 12 celebratory cigars, you're okay. Any other kind of tobacco, you're going to get a tobacco rate. So I go through that. Then I go through meds, current medications, history of meds the last few years. That's where I'll talk about mental nervous if we need to get into that. But I ask meds currently, dosages, what are they for? And then after that, I go to mental nervous. Any history of stress, depression, anxiety, marriage counseling, relationship counseling, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, or any other mental nervous related things ever. And then you got to shut up. That is the hardest part. You got to stop and let them answer it. And they go, marriage counseling? Yes. Marriage counseling, because does the marriage counselor talk about how you're bipolar and you've never been diagnosed? Or they talk about how you're super depressed, but you've never been diagnosed with that. We may get those records, so I want to make sure that we are knowing what we're going to get. And so I spend a lot of time on mental nervous and diving into that and leaning in and asking more questions if they answer yes to that. I also ask if they've ever attempted suicide when that comes up, because sometimes that comes up in underwriting where that can be a deal killer. I also ask if they've ever been hospitalized due to it, a couple of deal killers. So I go through that. I go through chiropractor. You ever been to a chiropractor? Ever? Okay, yes. Did you fill out the diagram where it circle the problems on the body? Yes. Oh, you circled that hip? That's going to be an exclusion. And I talk about how to get rid of exclusions, because a lot of our clients get spine exclusions and we get rid of them a year or two later. So we talk about that. Then we talk about surgeries. You ever had any surgery? And we even talk about wisdom teeth. Not that it matters, but I want to make sure I know every surgery. Sleep studies, sleep issues, or CPAP use. You ever been to one or had any of that? If so, I want to know details on that. And then we ask DUI, DWI, or reckless. Average, have you had more than 2 moving violations the last 5 years? And then we ask if you've ever been to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. We ask the number of drinks you drink per week on average. Any admitted drug use you'd tell an insurance company about: marijuana, Molly, cocaine, heroin, anything like that. You smoke marijuana daily, that's okay. Let's talk about that so we can verify that with the underwriter. And then we ask about avocations: rock climbing, mountain climbing, scuba diving, skydiving, racing, anything like that. Kind of anything outside the square box. We ask bankruptcy. You ever had any bankruptcies or charge-offs? And then our final question: when you go to the doctor and you're filling out 10,000 medical questions, page after page after page, any other yes answers besides what you already told us? And then you got to pause and pause and pause until they really go through it. Sometimes you got to say cancers, heart attacks, siblings, major things. So we do that, and then we go through occupation. The biggest thing with occupation, everybody's the vice president. Like they're a vice president of a roofing company. Well, how many people are there? 2. Me and my brother. Well, you supervise your brother doing roofs? Like, you're not a vice president. You're a roofer. And so you really got to lean in on the occupation stuff and what are your daily duties. For example, we're going through a case right now that the client calls themselves a chiropractor. They don't actually do adjustments at all. They run a chiropractic clinic. They make $400,000 a year. They're not a chiropractor. And so it's really leaning in on occupation and really understanding a client's occupation. And then you ask about existing coverage and get into that and kind of future plans. And then income you got to figure out. And if you ever want more on this or you want to schedule a phone call with me to dive into it more, I will. But that's the big, quick, skinny on the questions we go through. And it doesn't take very long, but you got to be willing to lean in. The hardest ones to lean in on is the chiropractor and the mental nervous. The mental nervous, you can lose a client's trust instantly if you aren't careful about your tone and your excitedness and stuff. And when I start questions like this, I say to the client, look, you're probably going to tell me something I've never, or you're going to probably tell me something I've already heard many times. Nothing's going to be new. It's just for you. It may be this or that, but don't be embarrassed, like get everything out. And then if you're dealing with another advisor or you're dealing with a spouse, talk about how if you get into a question they don't want to answer, gloss over it and call me later with any surprises. Meaning, if I was talking to Andrea and her husband, and Andrea hadn't told her husband about some medical thing, and she didn't want to tell him about it, I'd say follow up with me later and gloss over it. You got to make it comfortable for the clients. You don't ever want them. Sometimes the spouses don't know everything. They usually know everything, but not always. or if you're dealing with another advisor involved and they're listening in on the answers, you want to make sure that the client's comfortable calling you separately with more stuff, because I've got a lot of times where advisors have joined me on calls and the client will call me later with a bunch of medical stuff that their advisor didn't know about. So try to avoid surprises. That's really what you're trying to do.
That's helpful.
That was the quick skinny on it.
Thank you very much for going through that. Cynthia, anything that you wanted to add for different things that you do or ask?
Yeah, as far as the underwriting goes, I put it in the chat. Not sure if anyone was able to see that, but I typically start with the form 9635 that is in the forms under DI, and it has some of those same things that he's talking about, but some he's created his own throughout his industry of DI, and that's good and it's great. But this is a good start. That's form A as in Apple 9635. And it's a good starting point that could segue to some other things.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Well, I don't see that we have any other. The name of the phone service again is, give me 1 second here. It's Ooma, OOMA Pro. So Ooma Pro is the name of that phone service that William uses. And then I will make sure, someone had asked for your contact information, Cynthia and Corey. I will send that out in a follow-up email to all attendees. That way then they can reach out to you or find you on social media. So.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Illinois Mutual.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.